are live. Hello folks, welcome to part 24 of Sonadow Play Ace Attorney. Joining me as per usual is my lovely girlfriend GF IMShadow007. Say hello, hon.
Hello.
And we're back after a 2-week delay.
Sorry about that.
Well, things happen, don't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, put the game back on. See, that's how rusty we are. There we go. Just put the sound on.
And in this, we are finally going to wrap up case 2 of Trials and Tribulations, the Stolen Turnabout.
Yes, we are. As has been said before, I absolutely loathe this case, so be happy to see the back of it.
Well, I only love Luke at me, so. Hey, Nick.
What is it? What is it this time?
You won't believe how many people are here for the trial.
Well, it is a murder case.
What are you talking about? They're here for the trial next door.
Next door?
Why don't you know this, Nick? They're having Detective Atmy's trial today.
Detective Atmy?
They say they're going to try him as Mask to Mask.
Already? That was fast.
Boy, I love to see Mask to Mask's trial. That's wrong.
Oh, I know. By the way, where's Pearls?
Oh, she went back home. She said she can't neglect her training anymore.
I know you don't like me. Pearls has really gotten into her training lately, huh?
Yeah, ever since that incident last year.
Please! Don't ignore me!
Oh, Mr. Delight. Good morning.
No one likes me. Yeah, we know. No one would notice me, even if I killed someone.
Come on, don't be silly. Oh, wait a sec.
You don't mean you're the murderer? No! I'm just a poor thief! Oh wait, that's not right. A thief can't really be poor. Now let's see. According to Mr. Delight, from his second crime on, he was following a bunch of set plans. Plans that someone had been sending him to help him commit the heists.
Do you really think there's a connection between the thief and the murder, Nick? Yes.
It's possible. But today's trial is a race against the clock.
Huh? How come? Just take our time like always.
I'm afraid that's not an option.
Here we go.
Court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Ron Delight. The defense is ready, Your Honor. You're ready? Preparation is the last refuge of the weak. Okay, settle down, everyone. Let's begin with your opening statement, Mr. Godot. He's got the judge in the palm of his hand. Yet again. Ron Delight is simply too young to be sent to war. That's all. I'm afraid I have no idea what that means, Mr. Godot. Then you need to get out more, Your Honor. Life is war, but that is exactly why you must be more precise in your wording. That's all my statement means. You understand now, right? Yes. Well then, let me briefly summarize the details of this case. Wow, the judge is taking charge like he knows what's going on for a change. The victim is Kane Bullard, CEO of KB Security. His body was found in a safe at approximately 9 a.m. in the morning of the 13th. However, the time of death was estimated at 1 a.m. of the previous day. And that's when our little lost kitten dropped the ball. That little lost kitten is, of course, the defendant. Very well then, Mr. Godot, please call your first witness. I never drink more than 17 cups of coffee during any given trial.
How are you still alive?
I don't know. But the first one is always the best. Mr. Godot, your witness? Okay then, let's hear what the defendant, Mr. Ron Delight, has to say for himself. The defendant? Well, Mr. Wright, does the defense have any objections? It may be a bit of a disadvantage having the defendant testify, but...
I remember when Mia was defending me. She allowed me to testify so she could do the cross-examination. She put a lot of trust in me back then. We have no objections, Your Honor. The defense will allow Mr. Delight to testify. Ha! You've got guts, trite.
Alright then, Mr. Ron Delight, please take the stand.
You did it, didn't you?
Yes.
What?
No, that's not true! For a moment there, I thought we'd set the record for the shortest trial ever.
Well, Mr. Delight already looked pretty guilty for that face he's making.
And once he opens his big mouth, he'll probably put the last nail in his own coffin. Yeah, very well. Now then, can you tell me something? If you didn't kill Bullard, why did you go to KB Security?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. Oh, I wish I could go home. Now then, let's hear some testimony about what happened. That evening around 1 a.m., I went to see Mr. Bullard in his office at KB Security. The blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. I've been working at KB Security until a year ago, so I knew where his office was.
About that blackmail letter.
1 a.m., the exact time the murder took place.
The weak gets washed away by the tides of fate. The strong drink it up. It's bitter today, too. Just like my destiny.
You never know that from the way he's chugging it down.
Mr. Wright, your cross-examination if you please.
Can you tell us more about this blackmail letter you got? Hold it.
It ordered you there.
It was the first time I'd gotten a blackmail letter that ordered me to go somewhere. Does that mean you've got other blackmail letters then? Oh, of course! They'd say things like, steal this or take that.
Why don't you save those for later, Mr. Delight? Please don't say any more.
Press harder.
Hold on, they're saying your mic's a bit quiet. Hold on, I'm gonna turn you up.
Alright.
Okay, say something.
Testing, hello?
There we go.
Alright, press harder. No, don't leave!
What the?
No, you're supposed to press it, you...
What the hell? I didn't press down. The fuck?
What?
Okay, I guess my controller decided to have a moment there. That was weird.
Now what? What do we do?
You can probably just press that again.
Alright, try again. There we go.
Okay.
Just keep going. The fuck was that all about?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Now, what should I... Now, what should do I do? What?
What should do I do?
The fuck?
Thank you.
So, what did the blackmail letter in question say?
It said bring $50,000.
Money, huh? A perfect motive for committing murder.
Oh, wait! I never intended to pay that money anyway. Oh, is that right?
Everything okay?
Yeah, hold on, I'm gonna turn my mic up as well. Okay.
Alright.
After all, he had nothing to hold over my head. I had nothing to be afraid of. An important point indeed. Witness, let's have that added to your testimony. Yes, sir.
Ha. A muddy mud skipper in outer space has a better chance of surviving than I do.
So, about KB security, though, I would hold that for later, but go to the next statement. So, you worked at KB security. Can you tell us more about that?
You used to be a security chief for KB Security, right?
Yeah, that's right. A security chief? You?
And yet, a year ago, you were fired without notice. Revenge for an old grudge? A perfect motive for murder, wouldn't you say? This isn't good. Maybe I should change the subject.
Why were you fired?
Mr. Delight, please tell us why you were fired from your job.
Well,
the world is filled with those who have said, I wish I'd never asked that. Okay, I'll take it back.
defendant, please answer the question. I needed money. You needed money?
Well, you see, Desi loves to spend it. It's kind of her hobby.
Not exactly the best hobby in the world, huh, Nick?
My salary wasn't nearly enough, so I stole data from the company.
You did what?
Come again? KB Security has a lot of security info on all sorts of companies. And since I was a security team chief, you stole some data and sold it.
You little shit!
Mr. Bullard found out and I was fired immediately. What?! I wish I'd never asked that. I was somehow able to keep it secret, and I made it seem like I'd quit on my own.
What is it, Nick? You don't look so good.
Someone who brings harm to their company is fired as punishment. You do well to remember that.
He sure told you.
So you admit that you stole data from your company, is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry.
This is a very important fact. Please add it to your testimony.
Oh man, this whole thing just took a big turn for the worse, crashed and blew up. It's gonna take the jaws of life to rip this case from the clutches of disaster.
So, you said Desi doesn't know about that, but if we go back to, say, where the blackmailer didn't scare you, you were afraid of Desi finding out, weren't you? You were afraid of Desi.
Mr. Delight, what you said just now doesn't match what you told me yesterday. Huh? What doesn't? I think you must have been scared. Very scared. Of having a certain person find out your secret.
A certain person?
Miss Desiree Delight, the defendant's wife.
What? But I... Listen to me! My Desi, she's...
Looks like if I just sit back and relax, the fun will end before it truly begins.
Go.
Yes, we know. It was all your wife's fault.
What do you mean?
Mr. Delight stole company data to pay for his wife's spending habits, for which he was fired. Unable to face his own wife, someone used his dirty little secret to blackmail him. And that's how this murder came about.
Oh.
No! Everything is falling neatly into place for him.
Don't talk about my Desi like that! Or you'll be sorry!
What are you saying, Morty Smith? I'm sorry, it looks like Morty Smith.
Well, it seems that we've learned a great deal of things here so far.
What do you think, Nick?
I didn't think it was possible to get so thoroughly whipped in just 20 minutes.
Clearly there was sufficient motive for murder. He stole data for his wife, and he killed to protect his secret. A family man who cared just a little too much.
The motive is clear. Let's move on.
Ugh.
What happened at the crime scene at 1 in the morning, Mr. Delight? Come now, tell us. We're all ears.
When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there.
Gee, I wonder who that was.
Oh, it could be anybody.
Suddenly I was hit in the forehead. After that I remember being a bit dazed.
If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed. When I came to, Mr. Bullard was lying there, dead.
You haven't been wearing what?
I see. Suddenly hit on the forehead, huh? I believe the detective from yesterday provided similar testimony. He said that Master Mask struck him on the head from behind.
Of course, since that may turn out to be the culprit himself, that was all a lie. Huh. No one's going to believe a pathetic lie like that.
What are you saying? I really was attacked! We'll find out if you say it's true or not during the cross-examination.
Got that, Mr. Trite? Don't go easy just because he's your client. If I see any sign that you are, I'll treat you to another cup of my special blend. You don't need to worry about that, Mr. Godot. I have faith in Ron. I know he didn't do it.
If you haven't been wearing that, what is this that you're speaking of, Ron?
That? Could you please clarify what you're referring to?
Why, my Master Mask costume, of course. Wait just a moment. Master Mask?
Huh? Oh, did I forget to mention it before? Just to be on the safe side, I dressed as Master Mask. And then, I descended upon the office of the CEO of KB Security.
What?
And you didn't reveal us just now until why? Nick, did you know about this? You never told me this.
I don't recall him ever mentioning it to me either. Even I didn't know that. It seems our little friend really loves to keep secrets. I'm sorry, I just never had a chance to mention it up until now. Wait, that's not right. You know how sometimes things just slip your mind?
Ah, you little shit.
My 6th cup of coffee is staring up at me coldly.
At any rate, we can't ignore this new piece of information. Witness, please correct your testimony.
Hold it right there.
Why were you dressed up as Master Mask?
Why, because I'm Master Mask, of course. What are you talking about? Master Mask's trial is being held next door.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, that time, I thought I was being blackmailed over the Master Mask issue. So I thought I should go with him just to be safe. Oh boy. Let me tell you, it's a real pain to move around with that cape. That's why it took a lot longer than I'd expected. Took a lot longer? What is he talking about?
Dress.
What do you mean by took a lot longer? Oh, opening the safe, of course. My cape got caught in the safe door, you see. This all happened when I was hiding Mr. Bullard's body.
What was that? Back up a second.
Yes?
You are the one that hid the body in the safe?
Well, yeah.
Inconceivable!
This bride.
Why? Just why? What reason could you have? What were you thinking?
Is that Jeremy Clarkson there?
What were you thinking, Hammond?
Inconceivable!
Said Gordon. Question. When does someone toss their dirty shorts in the washing machine?
What?
The answer is simple. When they take them off.
As usual, I have no idea what you're saying.
Do you mean that Mr. Delight hid the body because he's the murderer? So you're not as stupid as you look.
His metaphor this time was really obscure.
Mr. Wright, you don't mean that you knew about this whole safe business, do you?
Well, yes.
Why am I the only one not in the loop here? Witness, make sure you add this to your testimony.
Yes, sir. Uh-oh. Looks like a storm front is moving over the fair weather judge.
Oh, because if you look at the buzzer record, because remember, He died at 1 o'clock a.m., but the buzzer says 1:02. Explain that. There's no way it could take you 10 minutes when the buzzer went off.
Your Honor, could you please take a look at this record?
And what might this be?
The record for the emergency buzzer that connects the CEO's office to security. If the button in the office is pressed, the security team is supposed to come running. And according to this record, the buzzer was pushed once, at 1:02 a.m.
What?
If Mr. Ron Delight truly was the murderer, he would have ran as soon as that buzzer sounded. After all, a security guard would have been heading his way.
Objection!
Objection. Huh. Let's remember who we're dealing with here. He probably had no idea there were security personnel in the building. How would he know that? How would he not know that? He worked there.
Also, he was knocked out.
Up until 1 year ago, my client was working as the chief of security. There's no way he wouldn't have known about them.
Objection!
Objection. But, as it turns out, the guard never came. That was nothing more than a coincidence. The fact that the guard was a pathetic loser who had just gotten punched in the face by his ex's new boyfriend and wasn't anywhere in the vicinity was not something Mr. Delight could have known.
Objection!
Ha! Again, remember who we're dealing with here. It's a sure bet that Mr. Delight didn't even notice the buzzer going off.
Because he was knocked out.
The buzzer is extremely loud. There's no way he could have ignored something like that. If he had been conscious, that is.
Conscious? What do you mean by that?
Fine. Let's hear your theory. Recall the defendant's testimony. The moment he entered the victim's office, someone attacked him. Mr. Delight said he felt dazed. I'm willing to wager that he was knocked unconscious for at least a few minutes.
Unconscious? So he fainted?
That's why Mr. Delight didn't know that the buzzer had sounded. And that's why he thought he had time to hide the body.
So,
What are you trying to say? Mr. Delight was knocked out, and the buzzer went off soon afterwards. Now, unless my client was able to hit the buzzer while he was unconscious, it can only mean that there was another person in that room. That's right. Whoever it was, they knocked out Ron Delight and then pressed the buzzer.
order in the court! Mr. Wright, this is...
Objection!
This is preposterous.
It was this kid, Ron Delight, the one who killed Kane Bullard. Then who pressed the buzzer?
It was...
The victim, of course. He pressed the buzzer when the defendant attacked him. He didn't die right away. He must have held on long enough to push that button.
Bullshit.
So Kane Bullard sounded the buzzer himself. What is your opinion on this, Mr. Wright?
I need to prove that the real criminal was there at the scene, but how? Can I prove that it wasn't Kane Bullard who sounded the buzzer?
I can prove it, yes.
The defense's opinion is this, Your Honor. The piece of evidence that proves that it wasn't the victim who sounded the buzzer.
The buzzer itself, but there's no prints on it. So you look at the buzzer, look. It says, no fingerprints.
I believe this is the piece of incontrovertible evidence you were looking for.
The emergency buzzer? Is there some kind of clue on it?
Absolutely not. Hey, come on now. At least give us some thought as to what you say before opening your mouth. The fact that there are absolutely no clues is itself the clue.
Now I'm the one who's clueless. What else is new?
Aren't you always?
This button has no fingerprints on it. If Mr. Bullard had really pressed it himself, naturally he would have left his fingerprints behind. Ron Delight obviously wiped them off. Why would he? A guard could have come in at any moment. He touched that button. I know he did. The defendant, Mr. Delight, was dressed as Mask to Mask. and Master Mask always wears gloves. What reason could he possibly have to wipe the button free of fingerprints?
Order! Order! Order!
It would seem I've been forced to eat crow.
I wonder what blend number crow flavored coffee is.
I really don't want to know.
Me neither.
However, if the real killer was there at the scene, why would the person press the emergency buzzer? Shouldn't they have run away without putting themselves in extra danger? What's with this awkward silence all of a sudden?
It looks like you're fresh out of parlor tricks.
On to you, Nick.
Just give me a minute to collect my thoughts. The real culprit killed Mr. Bullard at around 1 a.m. And Mr. Delight just happened to waltz in when the murder was taking place, right? The killer clobbered Mr. Delight and then sounded the buzzer.
Even though security was supposed to respond right away if the buzzer was pressed.
Security was supposed to respond.
Time's up, Mr. Wright. Let's hear what you have to say.
Very well then. Oh, you've got some guts. I like that in an opponent.
Why did the real killer sound the emergency buzzer?
To call the security guard.
The killer knew that if they pressed that button, a guard would come running. And that was exactly what they wanted.
Do you mean the killer called the guard on purpose?
Yes. Although, as it turns out, he never showed up.
Because he was getting his clock clean at the time.
What a touching story. You're saying the killer had a change of heart and called the guard to turn himself in? No, I'm not. When the buzzer sounded, there were 3 people in that office. The victim, Kane Bullard, who was already dead. The defendant, Ron Delight, who was out cold. And the third person, the real killer.
Hypothetically, yes.
Now then, in this situation, if the real killer made an escape, what would happen? The only ones left in the room would be the victim and Ron Delight. And if any security guards came running in at that time, they would think I was the murderer. Yes, that's precisely the real killer's objective. To frame Ron Delight for the murder.
Order! Order! Order!
It would seem.
Where do you keep getting those?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I'm wanting that coffee service.
Hey, Kaneki, is that you?
If anyone's watching Tokyo Ghoul, they'll get that reference.
Yeah.
I've been made to eat my words once again.
Don't you mean drink it? Actually, you even made to do a spit take with a cup of coffee. Hey, it's what I said!
Mr. Wright, who was it? Who was that tried to frame me? Wait a second. I'm the one and only Master Mask, so...
You mean the real killer is?
We're going to drag that person in here right now.
But who is it?
I don't have any solid proof yet, but think about it. The killer knew Mr. Delight's identity, and they also knew that he had been called to KB security that night. So, the killer used him to execute a well-crafted plan to murder Kane Bullard.
Now then, let's hear your accusation, Mr. Wright. Who was it that framed Mr. Ron Delight as the murder of Kane Bullard?
Gee, I wonder who.
Look at me.
Detective, look at me. He's the only one who could have done it. Ace Detective. Look at me?
You mean Master Mask did it?
Your Honor, the person being tried in court next to us is not Master Mask at all. He is, in actuality, the true murderer of Kane Bullard.
Get his ass in here.
Order! Order! Mr. Wright, explain yourself!
Theft and murder. Which is the more serious crime?
They're not even close. Murder is the most serious crime, of course. It's a capital crime subject to a capital punishment.
Please remember the trial from yesterday, if you would. When Look At Me confessed, there was a huge commotion in the courtroom. Of course, a famous detective was unmasked as well as masked the mask. You know, one thing I find a bit jarring is that they say it's fitting to a capital punishment, but the localized version of Ace Attorney is set in California, correct?
Yes.
And as far as I'm aware, I don't think California has the death penalty. If someone can correct me on that, but I don't think they do. Whereas Japan does, which is the original localization.
Yeah, could someone look that up? Anyone in Cali?
Instead of being convicted of murder, he was found guilty of grand larceny. That was his true objective all along.
To be found guilty?
Master Mask had the perfect alibi for when the murder took place. He was stealing the urn at Lordly Taylor. In other words, being found guilty as Master Mask was Look At Me's airtight, watertight, and unassailable alibi.
A guilty verdict? As an alibi?
Plan.
You know, it's almost time.
For what?
For Look At Me's verdict. It was a pretty simple trial, after all. If we're going to stop this trial to solve that one, we need to do it now. Of course. That's assuming you have proof that the detective was the one who committed the murder.
What's up?
Mr. Look At Me's trial has indeed attracted the attention of the entire country. Oh, so there is capital punishment in California, but it's been halted thus far? Okay.
Really? Like what they all say?
Says here, Angry John posted that capital punishment is a legal penalty in the US state of California as of March 2019. Further executions are halted by the official moratorium ordered by Governor Gavin Newsom. Alright, so it is a punishment, but it's been suspended. Okay.
I see.
If we were to intrude and fail to provide adequate proof of his true crime, Mr. Delight would be left with no grounds for appeal.
Am I really sure about this? I bet it's only good when your life's the ante.
Mr. Wright, I believe in you!
Mr. Delight.
So, please, I'm begging you!
Thanks, but my decision will determine the rest of your life. Can I really risk your life like this?
Phoenix.
Huh? What was that?
Don't stray, Phoenix. For your client, take the path of trust.
It's official. I'm going insane. That voice.
When have you always been insane, Nick?
Quiet, you. That voice. It sounds like... Mia! Your Honor, the defense requests an immediate recess. Huh. So that's your answer, huh?
Very well. I've decided as well. This court will now take a 20-minute recess. Mr. Wright, when we return, please summon Mr. Look At Me to the stand.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just so you know, this judge here, he's Canadian.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, Sir Detective Atney. Ha! I have to say, Mr. Payne, you performed splendidly. Oh no, Sir Detective Atney. You were the one who...
That's enough. This court sees no reason to further prolong this trial. This court finds the defendant Look At Me.
Hold it!
Wait! Don't hand down your verdict yet, please! And yes, that's the judge's brother, if anyone's wondering. Well,
Yeah,
well,
imagine-
so...
Okay, imagine stopping mid-gavel. Like, I was about to hit that!
Yeah, you just hear like the tire screeching sound effect. Anyway, Well, well, Sir Lawyer. Welcome to my courtroom. Who's this hoser, eh? My name is Phoenix Wright, attorney at law. And I wish to file an accusation against this man. Look at me. Accusation? You accuse Master Mask? That man is not Master Mask. He's just a ruthless murderer. What?
You're coming with us.
Oh dear.
Busted. Ooh.
Busted.
Now this is where it gets really doozy. My sis?
I could have sworn I heard Mia's voice.
So then, she's still alive, inside your heart. Nicky boy!
Oh, Mr. Light.
Is it true that Detective is the real killer?
To be honest, we don't have any definite proof. But he's the only one who could have done it.
But wasn't he at Lordly Taylor at night? Not to mention, we don't exactly know his motive. I mean, why would Detective Abby want to kill Kane Bullard?
Oops, it's almost time. Better get back to the courtroom. I need to find some solid proof. And it's gotta happen sooner rather than later.
Now then, this court is back in session. Mr. Look at me, please take the stand.
Well, well. How do you do, Sir Lawyer? I never would have thought to see you acting so recklessly. I couldn't let them hand down your verdict just yet. Not when I would have gotten you your perfect alibi. An alibi by the name of Master Mask. I'm sorry? I'm afraid even the great Look at me has no idea what you mean. Of course, I have been in the next courtroom ever since 10 o'clock this morning. I'm afraid there's no way I can know what's been going on in here.
You've been in the defendant's seat all day long, correct? Being tried as Master Mask.
Indeed, it's truly child's play to fool the ignorant masses. Not only did the poor fools ask me to protect their valuables, they even gave me a generous reward upon returning their own property to them. Take this red diamond ring that sparkles upon my divine finger, for example. So you continue to insist that you are in fact Master Mask. Of course.
Well then, look at me. Let us begin with a simple question. On October 12th at 1 AM, Kane Bullard was murdered. Where were you at the time?
One without knowledge lacks even the knowledge that he should be ashamed of himself. But don't worry, I will not hold it against you, Sir Judge.
Thanks. Oh, shit.
Alright, Mr. Atney. The night of the murder. Speak. We're all ears. As you wish, Sir Prosecutor. I was stealing the urn as Master Mask just as I announced I would. I had more than enough time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. A photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. The time at which the camera captured Master Mask was the same time as the murder.
You had time to prepare, you say?
It seems the main point of discussion will be the photo of the crime scene.
Everything else up until now was all part of his plan. There has to be a secret of this picture as well. Even the great Master Mask cannot be in two places at once. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I have a verdict to receive. Unfortunately, Mr. Atney, we still have to do your cross-examination. A fool is too foolish to know that he is a fool. One Karma, is that you?
Excuse me! I had my whip ready and waiting for you, fool!
Suddenly it just appears around his throat. I'm sorry!
Oh, you will be sorry when I whip you in the back!
Oh, great.
I think he's trying to say that you're full of it, Nick. Gee, what makes you think that, Maya?
The only thing that's full of it is his alibi.
So you say you had time to prepare, huh? Let's elaborate on that, shall we? Hold it!
I believe Adrian Andrews hired you at one point. That's right. That was over 20 days ago, if I'm not mistaken. You sent this calling card to Lordly Taylor 10 days before the heist. That would mean you sent out the card after you began your security watch, right? Indeed. There was no reason why I couldn't do both jobs at once. It was the perfect opportunity to steal my latest target.
I see. You truly are evil, aren't you?
Yes, evil is what I am.
Nick, isn't there something odd about this? Detective Abney was always proud of his ace detective skills, right? But if the urn was stolen from Lordly Taylor while he was the only one watching it, he'd have no way to maintain his perfect ace detective persona.
You know, that's true. It is kind of odd.
So about the camera that's taking the picture of it, not that, but the next statement. Yeah.
About the camera that took this photograph. Oh, come now. It's all clear what you're thinking. It's all too clear what you're thinking. Huh? You think I altered the timestamp of this photograph, don't you? I'm afraid that's impossible. The camera was set up by Lordly Taylor, and on top of that, it was Lordly Taylor's staff that printed the picture's data. Unfortunately for the defense, there's no way the picture could have been altered.
I see.
Looks like I'd better find something else or that could be suspicious.
So this alibi is false?
It has to be, or he couldn't have killed Mr. Bullard at KB Security.
But I'm not really spotting anything unusual. I have.
There are two possibilities. Either the mask-to-mask in the photo is a fake, or the photo itself is.
So no? Nope. Press that!
So by photograph, you mean this piece of evidence here? Is that correct? Indeed it is. That is it! The very thing that proves I committed the crime. The very thing that proves you committed the crime. Surely even you understand by now. Lordly Taylor provided that camera. There's no way I could have tampered with it. That means I could not have killed Kane Bullard unless I had an accomplice. Come on, think long and hard about that night. The basement warehouse, and this picture that supposedly captures it. It's got to be here. Isn't there something funny about this picture?
You bet there is!
Are you implying that this picture is a fake? You bet I am. There's definitely something strange about this picture. We took a look around the basement warehouse the night before the theft took place. And there's something in this photo that doesn't match my memory of that night.
Very well, then let's hear what you have to say.
What about this photograph do you find funny?
A statue. It's supposed to be right, like... Yeah, wait, hold on. Yeah, the pink splotch, yes.
The funny part is right here.
Why, this is a blood stain! Ah, blood! Now this case is getting interesting.
Not exactly. The stain is actually pink paint.
Oh, just pink. And peach-colored at that.
From blood to peaches, the judge sure loves going on his wild tangents. The problem with this photograph is not the paint. The problem is when you consider the layout of the basement warehouse. It turns out that something that should have been there is nowhere to be seen. Ugh.
Well, Mr. Wright, what is supposed to be in this picture instead of the paint stains?
The statue.
The supervisor of the treasure exhibit stated the following.
Well, there's a good reason for that. On the day of the crime around noon, that golden statue just happened to arrive from the mountain training hall. I realized that the statue would be the perfect size for the covering up the paint stains. That's why I put it where you first saw it.
I myself was there the night the theft took place and saw the statue in that spot. If this picture was truly taken on that night, then that statue would have been there.
Objection!
Objection. But when I went there the day after the theft, that statue of the old bag was sitting in the corner.
Perhaps it was somehow pushed there accidentally?
Your Honor, this statue is slightly larger than yourself and quite heavy. It would take more than an accidental push to move it that distance. Yeah, especially if it's made of gold. Gold is very heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
In that case, can you prove it? Can you give us the rhyme and reason as to why the statue was moved that night?
Can you do it, Nick?
Never mind who moved it. The real question is, why did they move it?
Well, Mr. Wright, I hope you're prepared with your answer. Now then, who was the one who moved the golden statue on the night of the crime?
Look at me.
The one who moved the statue was none other than Look At Me. Come now, Sir Lawyer. There you go again on one of your strange delusions.
Mr. Wright, what basis do you have for your strange delusions?
It's very simple. The witness was the only one in the basement warehouse that night. That is indeed very simple. However, why would I want to move a heavy golden statue? The reason for moving the golden statue. Here's where our battle really begins.
Well, Mr. Wright, what reason did the witness have to move that statue?
The reason can be found here in this photograph. Look at me. You pretended to be Mask the Mask to create an alibi by showing that you were at Lordly Taylor that night. But this photograph contains a single fatal flaw. If that statue had been there, your lie would be exposed like cheap film at a drugstore. That's why you had to move the statue.
Single fatal flaw?
Interesting theory. Please enlighten us. Just where in this...
The timestamp. There.
Naturally, the lie is in the photo as the timestamp.
What do you mean?
I'll tell you exactly what I mean. On the night in question, Look At Me went to KB Security and murdered Kane Bullard. Therefore, it's obvious. It would have been impossible to have been at Lordly Taylor at the time.
But what does that have to do with the statue being moved?
Remember, if you will, Your Honor, when was the statue placed besides the warehouse? When was this statue placed besides the warehouse door?
Well,
the statue was taken down to the warehouse on the day of the crime, and it was placed there in order to cover up the paint. Exactly. Look At Me had already decided on the time he was going to kill the victim. And so, in order to create an alibi for that time, bless you.
Thank you.
He took this picture days before the murder took place.
what the...
Of course, the statue hadn't yet been brought down to the basement warehouse yet.
Ah.
So, on the day of the crime, Mr. Atme must have been quite nervous. As nervous as a long-tailed cat in a rocking chair factory, so to speak.
Ooh.
Why? Because something that wasn't supposed to be there had been brought down and placed where it wasn't supposed to be. And that is why Look At Me had to move the statue on the night of the murder. He did it to make the room match the way it had been in his photo.
Ah! Order! Order! Mr. Atme, is this true?
One moment, Your Honor. Have you forgotten this?
What's that?
The data for the basement warehouse computer! According to this, the camera did indeed go off on the night of the crime. It's true that the camera had been set up by the Lordly Taylor staff. However, the program used to manage the data was yours. That alone would have allowed you to tamper with the data.
Order! Order! Mr. Godot, what is the meaning of this? Godot! I warned you about making me wait. Now put that coffee down.
My 11th cup. I promised to drink no more than 17 during a trial, which means I'm still good to the last drop.
Again, how are you not having heart palpitations?
I know, right?
However, the defense has a very good point.
A good point. So what? We are all but travelers on a road of infinite points.
I think he's got his points mixed up with his other points.
So you say this photograph was taken ahead of time, and that statue was moved in order to make it match. That's a very interesting idea. However, there's one point that can't be denied, which is that it's only a possibility. Men that are trapped by the chains of maybe can never reach their dreams.
That's very true.
No way! Don't fall for that, Your Honor! Hey, Mr. Damask. Yes? If there's no funny business in your actions as Master Mask, there should be no problem with you telling us your strategy. So let's hear it.
Yes, please provide this court with your testimony about your plan to steal the sacred urn.
I first received the request from Lordly Taylor about 20 days ago. The urn was placed in a box, and Zavari! It was sent to the warehouse. Hence, I was actually unable to see the urn for myself until the day of the crime. I knew it was an extremely valuable treasure, so I sent my card 10 days beforehand. Then I handled security by myself to ensure that my crime would go smoothly. At last, I held the urn in my hands for the first time at 1 AM on October 12th.
You had your card 10 days already prepared, huh? That's pretty much all stuff we've heard before, isn't it?
Yeah, but we'll find the truth hidden in the nuggets of new information he gave.
Witness, we're sure there are no mistakes this time.
Zavari!
Very well then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination.
You sent your card, huh? Care to explain this to me then? Then why do we have mask-to-mask calling card? Explain this!
Mr. Atney, if you really are mask to mask, then you also wrote this calling card, correct? But of course! Is there a problem with that calling card? Allow me to read a passage from the calling card that Mask to Mask had written. Take good care of the speckled urn. Now, the speckled here surely refers to the pink patterns on this sacred urn.
Yes, that is true.
Truth be told, there is no way that Mask to Mask could have known about this pattern. What do you mean? The pink spotted pattern on the urn is actually nothing more than paint stains.
Paint stains?
And these stains did not appear until after the urn had been taken to Lordly Taylor.
Gotcha.
I'm not finding this joke to be very funny, Mr. Trite. The day that the sacred urn was taken to the warehouse, the urn was broken due to human error, or should I say, an error-prone human. That's when the pink paint got on the urn. Ugh, you can't be serious. And yet, this calling card clearly mentions the paint pattern. Which means Detective Atney had sent this long before. Detective Atney had seen this urn long before the crime ever took place. In fact, he saw it when this fake photo was taken. And because this photo is a fake, your alibi of the night for the murder no longer holds water.
Witness, do you have anything to say for yourself?
Alright, that did it. He's broken.
Nick? I think it's still a little early for a victory pose.
Huh? It's so sad. No one has any conviction these days.
Conviction, you say?
Yesterday, we all decided unanimously that this man was Master Mask. And now we're calling him a murderer. You don't think we're being a tad fickle?
That's a good point.
No way! Don't fall for that too, Your Honor! You say that Look At Me was the one who killed Kane Bullard. Then let me ask you this. Why would he do that? An excellent point. Motive, Mr. Wright? Motive? Might you, my merry murderous motive manifest? Nick, he's getting... Oh, sorry.
Oh, Nick, he's getting second wind!
If he prepared an alibi and pinned his crime on Ron Delight, as you say, he must have had a very strong motive for murder.
The only one with any motive we've seen is Ron Delight. Isn't that right, Detective? Indeed. According to my own research, the boy's motive is clear.
Without a motive, it's nearly impossible to prove guilt in a murder case. Now then, maybe you can enlighten us as to what the defendant's motives were.
I'd be honored to, Sir Old-Timer. They're doing everything they can to make Ron look suspicious. Despite our lack of hard information, this may be our only chance. I, Look At Me, had no point of contact with the victim whatsoever. Kane Bullard decided to investigate Master Mask and simply mistook who he was. It was Mr. Bullard who wrote the blackmail letter and sent it to Ron Delight.
Really?
And it was again Mr. Bullard who harbored a grudge against Mr. Delight for his betrayal. Mr. Bullard's mistake is quite excusable. The defendant truly believes he is Master Mask. And that is why Mr. Delight saw it fit to kill Kane Bullard. Truly a tragedy.
So the victim, Kane Bullard, blackmailed the defendant.
This is the blackmail letter found in the defendant's apartment. And a handwriting test confirms that Mr. Bullard was indeed the one who wrote the letter. What?
Thank you.
Very well, Mr. Wright. Begin your cross-examination.
Yes, Mr. Bullard did write it, but he didn't address it to Ron. Because if you go to the third statement where you said that Mr. Bullard did write it, if you present that, well, read it out loud, you would see that he did not intend it for Ron. If you were to check it out...
Objection!
Mind if I ask you a few questions, Detective Atme? Well, if it's just a few, I guess it's all right. When you said that this letter was addressed to Ron Delight, I couldn't help but notice one major contradiction. Contradiction? I don't know where a walking contradiction like you gets off saying things like that. You're the one to talk. At times like these, men are made to express themselves with their fists. Why don't you show us what you've got there, Junior?
Indeed. Time to man up, Mr. Wright. Show us the contradicting evidence in the content of the blackmail letter.
The newspaper clipping.
Take a good look at this newspaper clipping. It contains a picture of the tear of Emanon, the stolen jewel.
What about it?
The problem is this jewel's color. Color? I'm not much for discussing color myself. According to the clipping, the color of the stolen jewel was blue. However, in the blackmail letter, a totally different jewel is mentioned. I'll take that red diamond you received the other day.
Red?
Which means the red diamond described in the blackmail letter is not the tear of Emanon that Master Mask stole at all. And your point is, Mr. Trite? So you're trying to say that this blackmail letter was intended for someone else? Is that what you're trying to say? Right, Trite?
This is what you're trying to say, right, Mr. Wright?
Well, then it's what you're trying to say, right, Nick?
All of you, shut up! Yes. This is who Kane Bullard was actually blackmailing.
He was blackmailing Luke at me.
Naturally, it was you, Detective Atme. Do you have some sort of basis for that claim? You've been personally involved in every single Mask the Mask case. And in the last case, you recovered what was stolen and received a jewel as your reward. A jewel? Probably the one wrapped conspicuously around your finger. That red diamond ring. That is the diamond referred to in the letter, which means that Kane Bullard wrote the letter in order to blackmail you. Order in the court. Order, I say. It seems you've gone too far with your childish pranks, Mr. Trite. Uh-oh. I don't like the way you said that. Kane Bullard blackmailing Look At Me? Are you for real? Yes, I am.
Come on, stand up to him!
Then answer me this. The blackmail letter contains the following passage. If you don't want your identity revealed to the world.
Yes, it certainly does.
Kane Bullard threatened to make Look At Me's identity public knowledge. An identity he wanted to keep a secret. So just what was that identity? Atme killed Kane Bullard because he was afraid of his secret becoming known. What was the identity he wanted to keep secret?
This is what it all comes down to, Nick.
The identity that Look At Me wanted to so desperately keep secret was his identity as...
a blackmailer.
Look At Me was a blackmailer.
Objection!
Hey now, isn't that a little different from what you've been saying? You said that Kane Bullard was the one blackmailing Look At Me. Are you saying that Atme was blackmailing someone else on top of that?
You have to admit, that does sound a little odd.
It's not odd. It's the only thing that makes any sense. Kane Bullard was blackmailing Look At Me. But Ron Delight was also being blackmailed by a certain someone. So, did you start receiving blackmail letters after this incident? Yes, just a few days after the Tear of Emanon heist. After that, I started getting the plans in the mail. I received plans from some very kind person, incredibly detailed plans.
Detailed plans? In which case, that would mean that Ron Delight was actually Mask the Mask.
That is what we're claiming. Someone else came up with the plans and he had Mr. Delight steal his targets for him. And that someone was none other than Look At Me.
Shh! Silence!
Now I see. It's all becoming clear. What is? When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. Careless, the tendency to jump to conclusions. Am I wrong? How did you...
Which...
You say that I, Look At Me, was blackmailing Ron Delight. In which case, I would naturally know all about his relation to Mask the Mask. Well, yes. Ron Delight started receiving plans for a second crime onward, correct? Which means I learned of his identity when he committed the first crime.
Good point. You certainly couldn't have blackmailed him otherwise.
In that case, let's see some hot, bitter evidence. During the first crime, how did Look At Me know that Ron Delight was Mask the Mask?
the newspaper clipping.
I think I see it. See what? When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. Gets into a lot of mischief trying to be the center of attention.
What do you mean?
This newspaper clipping. It has a picture of you and Ron Delight in his guard uniform. It seems that Mask to Mask didn't just disappear into thin air. He just took off his outfit and hid it in a bucket.
That sounds far too stupid to be true.
Correct. With tricks like that, he couldn't fool a baby, let alone an ace detective. And that's when you figured it out, Mr. Adney. That's when you learned that under his master...
It's really Wonder Light. What the? Wasn't he supposed to be Master Mask?
Not only that, it looks like he wasn't even an ace detective.
I can't believe it! He was just a slimy blackmailer!
What a fraud! Trying to pass himself off as an ace detective. Why, you? How dare you expose me like that? Why, I mean, I've never blackmailed anyone in my life. I'm a famous and proud ace detective, and also Master Mask. Why can't you understand that? I'm afraid you are neither a proud thief nor an ace detective. You're a blackmailer and a murderer. That is your true identity. Why, you? I say none of you cover my genius. Ace detective, blah 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 blah. Ian Sinclair. It's enough to make one laugh.
Enough to make one ree!
It's enough to make one laugh.
And ree.
And re, yes. It seemed we finally arrived at the real answer.
That was, quite the performance by Mr. Atme. He should join the Big Berry Circus.
Bailiff, please prepare a cell for Mr. Atme.
Objection!
What now?
The hammer that strikes too fast has no time to aim.
What do you mean? I'm already prepared to deliver my ruling.
Allow me to say one thing. I will be the one to judge.
You don't get much more on your face than that.
It appears that your claws weren't quite sharp enough, Mr. Trite.
What are you...
It's true that you've proven a lot of things. Things like Look At Me was a filthy blackmailer, and that he wasn't a Lordly Taylor the night of the murder. That's right. That's why he's the one who killed Mr. Bull. But there's still one thing you've yet to prove.
What's that?
Just because he wasn't at the warehouse doesn't mean he was at the murder scene. Therefore, if you can't prove that this pitiful excuse for a man was at KB Security, then I don't see how this verdict can be delivered. No way!
Order! Order in the court! Well, Mr. Wright?
This is it. This is the final round. I've got to prove that Mr. Atme was at Mr. Bullard's office on that night.
But can you really prove that?
That's long enough, Mr. Trite. I want to hear your answer. That night, Look At Me was at KB Security and the defense...
Can't prove it.
I can't prove it.
Just as I thought.
But, if we hear more of Detective Atme's testimony...
Objection!
Unfortunately, that's as far as you go, Mr. Trite. What do you mean? I won't allow for any more testimony. That's what I mean. What? Have you forgotten Look At Me is here after we interrupted his own trial? And you failed to prove that he committed the murder. I think it's time for this witness to return to his own trial and face his guilty verdict as Master Mask. No! Well now, Sir Lawyer, it seems that love wins out in the end after all. I am the ace detective as well as Master Mask. My verdict will verify that. Just as Ron Delights will verify that he is the true murderer. I declare that with the full force of my ace detectiveness.
Order! Order in the court! That's enough deliberation over this witness.
I can't believe this. At this rate, Ron is...
Up now. You can look evidence and...
You're lagging.
Oh, we still have tomorrow. We can look for more evidence and...
By then it'll be too late.
Huh? Why?
Double jeopardy. One of the basic rules of any court of law.
Double jeopardy?
Should a defendant be tried and found innocent in court, that defendant cannot be tried again for the same crime. That is a fundamental rule of all courts. And it applies to this witness as much as it applies to anyone else.
Mr. Atney will be found guilty in a matter of minutes. Guilty as mask to mask, which means
He will be innocent as far as the murder of Kane Bullard is concerned.
No way!
The fact that you were unable to prove Mr. Atney's guilt of that crime here means that he will never again be tried as Kane Bullard's murderer.
Oh! Now there's nothing I can possibly do to win. Even if Ron is proclaimed to be innocent, the real killer, look at me, will go free.
You have cross-examined every statement the witness has made here today. And as long as there is no more testimony, I'm afraid I have to declare that there will be no further questioning of this witness. As there are are there any objections? Then I hereby end the cross-examination of Luke Atney.
Objection! I think I see it. Your Honor, when you were a child, this is what was on your report card every year. Has poor hearing and often makes mistakes as a result. Damn!
How did you...
That's because you're a few French fries short of a Happy Meal, Your Honor. That is why. Phoenix, raise your head up high. Have you forgotten what I used to tell you? A lawyer is someone who smiles no matter how bad it gets.
That voice! No way!
Hello? Long time no see, Phoenix.
Mia! This is the true power of the Karine channeling technique. I know that it's really Maya who's standing before me, but right now she's my mentor, Mia Fey.
Now, let's do this.
But there's nothing more we can do, Mia. Without any more testimony, I can't cross-examine.
Not yet. The testimony's not over yet.
But what do you mean?
Your Honor, just now you said something very interesting. You have cross-examined every statement the witness has made here today.
Yes, that's true, but...
Unfortunately, Your Honor, you're forgetting something. Earlier, after the last cross-examination, this witness made a number of remarks.
Well now, Sir Lawyer, it seems that love wins out in the end after all. I am the ace detective as well as mask to mask. My verdict will verify that. Just as Ron Delight will verify that he is the true murderer. I declare that with the full force of my ace detectiveness.
Yes, but these comments appear to have no importance whatsoever.
Very well, then we shall prove their importance via cross-examination. At any rate, as long as the witness has made these remarks, we, the defense, assert our right to question them. Is that all right with you, prosecutor?
Is something the matter, Mr. Godot?
Nothing.
He knows me,
Oh, Sir Lawyer, looks like you're one step too late. If you think such falsehoods will do anything to me, look at... Let's hear it. Huh? It's true that the witness has made some remarks. So then, let's hear about this last bit of cross-examination. Mr. Godot, what are you...
See, he's my simp.
Very well then. Mr. Look at me. I'm going to allow the defense to cross-examine your earlier remarks.
The defense would like to hear why you declare the defendant to be the true murderer.
So please, give us one last bit of testimony.
Phoenix, this is it. This is our absolute last chance. Save here.
Yes, Chief. Indeed, it's true that I was not at Lordly Taylor. I had to leave and see about another vitally important job request. I had known about the date beforehand, so I had this photograph readied. My brilliant deduction was what informed me that the true culprit was Ron Delight. And thanks to the key card and wallet, it was abundantly clear that he was there. I was also able to make a deduction from the buzzer, which only sounded once. The button did not have any fingerprints on it. Why? The victim would have left prints if he sounded it, which means the killer sounded it. Mr. Delight was wearing his mask-to-mask outfit, which is why he left no prints.
Yeah.
And the blackmail letter, the victim likely just mistook the color of the jewel. Zavare! Therefore, all the evidence points to that poor boy.
You know what Ron Delight was wearing? How did you know that?
This testimony actually seems to hold up pretty well. The witness's earlier remarks do not appear to have been hastily prepared. All of his points have been explained, and none of them seem to contradict anything. But of course. But how did you know about the emergency buzzer? The police investigation documents went directly through me. And I always look over all the documents. It's elementary, Sir Lawyer. Are you going to make even more trouble for us now, Sir Lawyer? I will not allow any of your usual shenanigans, Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor. We cannot postpone Luke Atmey's trial any longer. This is your last chance. Hang on a sec. Just one chance? It seems that the party's about to begin.
Well, Phoenix?
There isn't any evidence that contradicts with that testimony.
So it would seem.
What do you mean, so it would seem?
Listen, Phoenix. Pointing out contradictions doesn't always mean you have to present evidence, does it? At any rate, this is our last chance. If you can't point out a case-breaking contradiction, you lose. That's all there is to it.
Cup number 17, the last cup. So it seems the time has come to put an end to this trial. I have to find a fatal contradiction in this testimony, and I need to point out without presenting evidence. Which means all I can do is find the contradictory remark and press it.
Remember, you only get one chance.
Very well then, Mr. Wright. Please begin your final cross-examination.
You said that Ron Delight was wearing his mask-to-mask outfit, which is why he left no prints. How did you know what he was wearing? No. 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 There!
Mr. Atmey, about this last remark.
Objection!
You still don't get it, do you, Trite? This isn't the time to be pressing the witness on every little statement. I'm afraid you're the one who still doesn't get it, Mr. Godot. What? Mr. Atmey, it seems you have finally admitted that you were in the CEO's office on the night of the murder. How can you say that? Let's review your testimony, shall we, Mr. Atmey? The button did not have any fingerprints on it. Why? Mr. Delight was wearing his mask-to-mask outfit. Is that correct? Indeed, that's what I said. My deductions are absolutely foolproof. More like your deductions prove that you're a fool.
Stop saying my catchphrase!
I'm sorry, what do you mean? For some reason, I'm starting to get really thirsty. When exactly did we learn the fact that Ron Delight was dressed as mask-to-mask when he went to the scene of the crime? That was, it was just a few hours ago. Back when my sixth cup was looking at me with a cold stare. Huh? Oh, did I forget to mention it before? I'm sorry, I just never had a chance to mention it up until now. That's right, the defendant had yet to tell anyone else this fact before this morning. Therefore, the only people who should know this are those who've been watching this trial. Do you understand now, Detective Atmey? There's no way that you should have known about that. You were in the next courtroom being tried as Master Mask. So then enlighten us. Just how did you know about that piece of information? Well...
Objection!
Come on, this detective must have known about it. He probably had plenty of chances to find out beforehand. And it's those chances that I want to discuss next. That night, Mr. Delight was wearing his Master Mask outfit. There was one and only one way for Detective Atme to have found that out. Only one way, you say? Please recall, if you will, Mr. Delight's testimony. When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there. For a second, my client witnessed the real killer.
Objection!
But Mr. Delight never saw his attacker, so there's no way you could tell whether or not the real killer was Look at Me. It's with that statement that I'll turn this case on its head. Just what are you implying? Mr. Delight saw the real killer, correct? Now, if you turn that statement around, it stands to reason that the real killer had also seen Ron Delight. Impossible. Detective Atme, you saw Master Mask at the murder scene that night. You saw him when you killed Kane Bullard and assaulted Ron Delight. That is the only way you could have known what Ron was wearing. Uh-oh.
Gotcha, bitch!
Take a good look, everyone. Unable to find a rival worthy of my genius, I was forced to create one by myself. Here I am, the tragic clown.
That's the same line you gave yesterday.
But I think there's a little more meaning behind it this time.
Got him.
What an awfully complicated incident. Kane Bullard was blackmailing Look at Me, who in turn was blackmailing Ron Delight. And upon killing his blackmailer, Look at Me tried to frame Ron Delight. He then claimed to be guilty as Master Mask in order to escape his true crime. And to that end, he came up with this plan. To use the double jeopardy rule when making his alibi. At any rate, it would seem we finally found the truth.
Excuse me?
I came perilously close to besmirching the record of an innocent young man. Besmirching him with the title of murderer.
Don't ignore me!
Oh, I didn't realize you were there.
Why wouldn't he be? Why wouldn't he be? About the verdict.
I know. You never committed any murder.
That's right. I'm so glad you understand that, but... I really am Master Mask!
Huh?
So, thanks to that trial yesterday, I'm innocent now, right? What was it you said? Double jeopardy?
Now that you mention it, I've been careless.
Careless? What do you think, Mia?
As the defendant says, the rule of double jeopardy is absolute. A defendant can never be tried twice for a crime in which he was found innocent.
Then, Master Mask is really innocent.
It would seem so. For now.
For now.
Now then, this court finds a defendant not guilty.
Finally!
Guilty as fuck!
Court is now adjourned.
Boy, this is really lucky. Wait, alright, this isn't so good after all. You see, the thing is, I still am Master Mask after all.
Who cares? Court's adjourned. You did it, Phoenix.
Thanks, Mia. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's because Maya doesn't call on me much these days.
Oh?
I'm just joking, Phoenix. Don't take everything so seriously. But on the other hand, Maya, She seems kind of torn these days.
You mean about becoming the master of the Karine channeling school?
Becoming the master means saying goodbye to our mother.
Misty Faye, right?
Watch over her, will you, Phoenix?
Of course.
Well then, see you around.
Mia.
Ah, Mr. Wright! I don't know what to say.
Congratulations, Mr. Delight.
Thank you so much! No, wait. Nothing really matters anymore, though, now that all of this has happened.
Come on! Happy already!
Maya.
You've been cleared of the murder charges and got off the Master Mask to boot!
But in exchange, I lost everything.
Huh? What do you mean?
Stealing security information from KB Security, becoming Master Mask. I did it all for one reason. For her.
You mean your wife, Desiree?
She hates criminals more than anything.
Come to think of it, she was once held hostage by some robbers, wasn't she?
She always said how she hated sneaky criminals. I knew that, but once I got fired from KB Security and lost all the money I had, she wouldn't have any reason to stay with me. I thought she would leave me for sure.
So that's why you became Master Mask.
Yes, but it's all over now. A broken bowl can never be put back together.
Oh, right, Nick?
Right.
Really? Can we really go back to the way things were?
You'll be fine, and Nick can prove it.
I can? I kinda wish you would check with me first. Mr. Delight, even if a bowl is broken, there's always a way to put it back together.
Wait, what? I need to prove it? Wait a minute.
The urn?
I think so. Maybe, wait, hold on. Is it the urn?
Yes.
Oh,
The sacred urn. Desiree was the one who found this.
Desiree, your wife. She always believed in you, Ron. That's why you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about anything.
there you are.
Miss Delight.
You did it, Ronnie. You're innocent. I'm so happy.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but, I suppose you don't want anything more to do with me, do you?
Ronnie, why didn't you talk to me about what was going on? I had no idea you'd quit KB Security. I never imagined that you were really Master Mask either. Mr. Light, what are you gonna do that now you know? You're not going to really leave him, are you? Come on, it's obvious, isn't it? How could I ever let a wonderful man like him get away? After all, my bike's really fast. So fast that there's no way you could ever get away.
But didn't you say that you hated criminals?
Oh, I only hate people who act all cowardly and sneaky. Like the detective.
I see.
Ronnie went and declared his crimes before he committed them, like a man. I just love a man who's so chivalrous. Chivalrous? I knew I was right about you. Every day I spend with you is filled with thrills and excitement.
Desi.
Desiree, you really do love Ron, don't you?
Nicky boy,
Yes?
I'm really glad I asked you to defend my Ronnie. Thank you so much. I'll never forget what you've done for us.
Oh, well, take care of yourself.
You too, Nicky boy.
I can feel my face going red. Uh-oh.
Congratulations!
Talk about bad timing.
Mr. Nick, how could you? With another one. Stop trying to take my ship!
Ow.
Stop trying to sink my ship!
So just as the case came to a close, so did my consciousness. Ron said a broken bowl can never be put back together. But I know that's not true. I mean, just look.
Aww.
Here's a perfect example of one that was put back together even better than before.
So sweet. We did it!
Thank God.
Now we get to the funny third case.
Yes, we do.
Recipe for turnabout.
Yes. I actually like this case because it's actually funny.
Yes. I love this case. I love that case too, because the villain is actually hilarious.
Phew!
Finally.
Well, folks, I apologize for the 2-week gap, but now that... So hopefully things are now back to normal, so next week we'll start the third case, Recipe for Turnabout.
Yep.
So, do you have anything to say before we sign off?
Nope, but I'm excited for next week.
Me too. Alright folks, thanks for tuning in, and I shall catch you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.